analytics for how you're performing. And you'll be able to actually determine what part of my business here isn't working so well. How come my appointment to close ratio hasn't gone up in the last 2 months? Well, you might not be good on the appointments. Maybe you need to hire a closer to actually go in and handle those appointments, so you can actually isolate what element of your funnel is breaking and how to improve that over time. And you can't do that unless you have data to prove these results.
This is Mitch, and welcome to the Real Estate Investor Summit podcast. As always, this episode is brought to you by taxfreefuture.com. If you don't have a way of building your wealth tax-free or tax-deferred, then you have no idea what you're missing out on, and you won't believe what your financial advisors are not telling you. Stay tuned for more on that maybe later, but right now I want to get to our guest today. His name is Daniel Schwartz, and he's with InvestorFuse, favorite company of mine. So many people ask me all the time, what do I do for a customer relations management system? These guys are on the top of my list. Some people, though, prefer to build their own and customize and customize and customize. Other people are just not meant for that or built for that. And, let's get something that's really, really, really been well thought out and well taken care of. So how you doing today, Daniel? I'm
doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on again, Mitch.
Hey, so I always want to call you Dan. Is that a problem?
Dan is my preferred name.
Okay.
Just says Daniel on the Zoom thing here.
So we're fixing to be neighbors, huh? You're going to be setting up shop in Austin, Texas?
Yep. Moving to Austin this weekend. And if you're ever mad at me, you can call me Daniel, by the way.
Okay. Well, no, I'll leave that to your mother. So you're going to be right down the street from me, inviting you to come out to my ranch sometime. But as entrepreneurs do, they like to travel a lot, and we've caught Dan in San Diego in a hotel room. So it's not his favorite background, but you have to do. We had an appointment to speak today, and Dan says, okay, we'll just get up the laptop and we'll do it.
Yep.
So today's topic, let's talk about what's the key to kicking 2019 in the ass. It's January the 3rd, right? Everyone's had about all the eggnog and all the champagne we could handle. And so now we're going into 2019, and it's an exciting time. I mean, economies are booming. Things seem to be going well in the business sector. What's next for you, and how do you look at 2019, and what does it take to kick 2019 right squarely in the butt?
Well, if you think about it, access to knowledge about how to make money in real estate is essentially commoditized now. You can go on YouTube and you can learn how to flip a house. You can even learn how to do notes. All the knowledge you need is accessible, at your fingertips on your phone, wherever you are in the world. Access to data, and look at how easy it is to skip trace numbers now. It's pretty ridiculous how commoditized data and information has become in 2019. So with all that, how do you actually compete, assuming that the playing field is leveled now? How do you actually compete in 2019? And this is a challenge that we're always talking about, with our users and just internally at InvestorFuse. It's like, how can we create tools that can actually help our users compete, given all this information? And it comes down to your operations. How effective are your operations? How streamlined are your systems? How good are the tools that you're using? How good is your team? How dialed in is the vision for your strategy? And these are the things that are going to help propel companies in 2019. If you don't have solid systems in place, there's going to be someone else in your market that does. That's going to outcompete you easily. So this is sort of the general trend that we're gonna see this year, as well as just a lot of more boots on the ground style marketing. I think it's going to be a big year for stuff like door knocking, the harder stuff that most people aren't willing to do because it's harder by nature. We're going to see more people do a lot of that type of stuff as well, because there's less competition in that. So it's sort of interesting to see the progression of all this fancy automation stuff back to sort of more boots on the ground style of doing deals.
I've noticed myself, you can have all the automation you want to, and you can be very intelligent about what you're doing, very systematic. And then you get out there because you have to go look at a house, or you have to go do something with a house. And then you start talking to the neighbor, and you buy the house down the street. It always happens that way to me. You know, activity spawns activity, it seems like. So if you get out there and you're active in the neighborhoods, it seems like that's a lot of times when I buy houses, I'm not even meaning to buy a house. I went out there for a completely different reason. But because I was out there talking to people in the neighborhood, or people came over, or people saw me out there, you know, I ended up buying a house. But you mentioned a lot of things here. So let's just kind of take them one at a time. Intel. Let's talk about some of the kind of intel that's out there right now.
Yeah, so there's tools like PropStream that I've been experimenting with, where you can go in and type in a zip code, and then it gives you a list of the vacant houses, the tax delinquencies, the expired listings on the markets, all of these super niched lists that now you can get instant access to this data, and the data is, you know, fed essentially real time. So if there's a new tax delinquency that's reported, now that shows up on your PropStream account or whatever. And then you can click on skip trace this address, and then all of a sudden you get a whole list of phone numbers of tax delinquent properties, vacant houses with a certain percentage of equity in your target zip code. And then you get the phone numbers of all those owners. It's just kind of nuts that you can get that now.
Yeah, it's a ton of information. I was reading somewhere the other day that a mentor or coach out there was saying that the first thing that they like to recommend to their students is that they find a lead manager, someone to help manage the leads that come in and keep track of the leads and begin that process of having a customer relations management touch to your business. Not always easy, right? Takes some time. I mean, you don't just call up and get a great customer management system right off the bat. There's some minutia to it, right? Like, first of all, what list do you plug in? Your management system's only going to be successful as the list. So I think I was going to add to the list of things you said. You said better intel systems. I was going to say focus, consistency, and accuracy. Focus, like, where do you want your business to go? Consistency, it has to get done every day, which means you're not going to do it. If you're the entrepreneur, you're the owner of the business, it can't be you. It has to be someone else. And it has to be, more importantly, or equally as important, has to be someone you can fire. I see this problem all the time. People hiring their friends or their family relatives. I mean, I got family in my business, and I've had family in my business for a long time. My daughter's been sitting in the middle of my office for 23 years now, closing every deal in and out. And my wife's been heavily involved in my business. And then prior to now, I just have it down to those two. Prior to that, I had all kinds of family in my business and good friends, and it made my business horribly difficult to run correctly. Because there was too many emotional issues, and we weren't going by numbers. You know what I mean? And,
yeah, I mean, a big part of it is also firing yourself.
Right, and fire yourself. Yeah, that's the thing. And then accuracy. You know, how accurate is the data that you're getting? How accurate? You know, got to pay a lot of attention to detail in the accuracy department. What are the data points that you're using to make offers? Hey, do you know of an Intel or no, a system? This will be on systems. You know of systems that are helping people just shoot out hardcore offers? You know what I mean? Like signed contracts?
I do not, but that is on the roadmap for InvestorFuse. So
it is?
Yeah, well, not like something like you can upload a list of phone numbers and then just blast offers out. Nothing like that. Although that would be an interesting idea, kind of spammy and inauthentic, but I bet it'll kick back some deals. I don't know anything that has that offer blast type of functionality.
Okay,
but,
so one time I was
the more you can authentically.
I'm sorry, we're getting a little breakup here. Start again.
Yeah. I was just going to say, the more if you can, truly authentically connect with a whole list of sellers and then send them an offer, you're going to have better results at the end of the day. It's just more of a sniper approach.
Absolutely. I will say this though, once upon a time, many moons ago, and maybe the attitudes have changed or something, but we were, had someone in a lane that was buying, in one of our lanes in our office, someone was buying subject to stuff or was making offers to buy houses subject to. And we just sent out contracts to a whole bunch of people and told them, to send us, we told them to send us the deed if they wanted to give up their payment book. And we wouldn't do any research or send out a contract or anything until someone sent us their deed in the mail. And I think one month we got 18 deeds in the mail. And then we'd start doing the research to find out if we really wanted the deed or not. And if we didn't, we send it back. And if we did, then we went out and sent a contract. But that was a revelation to me that people would deed you their house. Because we'd send a copy of the deed and say, all you got to do is go to a notary and sign it and send it to us. And we'll get in contact with you and figure out how to take over your payment book. Really eye-opening, because, I was telling some people what we were doing at the time. They go, that ain't going to work. And sure enough, it did work. So I think a lot of things would work if you just apply yourself 100% and be consistent. I think the biggest thing is consistency. People say, well, do bandit signs work? I said, well, they don't really work as good as they used to. Not in my neighborhood, they don't. But if that's what you do every day, they're going to produce some houses. It's going to produce some houses.
So the challenge is how do you actually stay disciplined enough to be consistent with your marketing, with your prospecting, and with your lead management? I think those are the three things that if you can figure out how to be consistent with that and to do it in a streamlined fashion, then the rest of the funnel will kind of solve itself, right? If you get really good at that front end of the funnel with consistency of marketing and handling and processing leads and qualifying leads, then you'll get more appointments and you'll get more offers out, and then you'll get more deals, you'll get more cash in the bank. So that's kind of a big topic that we can explore. And you even said it, having a lead manager do that for you is a big leverage point right there.
Well, it's a starting point. Like, what's the most important thing if you're a solo entrepreneur out in this creative real estate environment?
Mm-hmm.
And people say, what's the first thing I need to do? Well, the first thing, nothing happens without a house. You got to get a good deal on a house. That's where it all starts. It all starts with a deal. So I would focus on how to find deals. And I think the first thing to do is you have to figure out where you're going to get your leads, and then you got to get someone to manage them. Pretty simple, right? Which is right down InvestorFuse's alley, right? I mean, that's what you guys specialize in.
Yeah, that's what we specialize in, and we figured out all the breaking points in that process. And solidifying those breaking points is what our software does, and kind of how we coach our clients in a way. We actually have we wrote something called the 10 Commandments of Lead Management. That might be good to link up in the show notes on our website. We kind of go through the 10 must-haves that the most successful investors all kind of live and die by. Just do you mind if I share some examples of some of these?
I'm writing it down. So we're going to give away the 10 Commandments of Lead Management. Is that what we're going to do?
Yep.
I hear you right. Okay. So we'll get a link to that here in a second. Actually, I'm just going to make one up as you're talking. I'll figure out a link and I'll present it.
All right.
So tell us, 10 Commandments. Yeah. There you are on the mountain with these stone plates. Okay. What are they?
You gotta follow these commandments. Otherwise you're going to be missing out on a lot of opportunities. So the first one is always respond to incoming leads within 10 or 5 minutes. You've probably seen this before. There's a lot of memes and various infographics.
Okay. Keep going.
So Harvard Business Review conducted this study that the odds of converting a lead increased by 21 times when contacted within 5 minutes versus 30 minutes. Just that 25-minute gap, there's a 21 time increase. Well, why is that? Well, especially with online leads that fill out their form, they, request for an offer or request to speak with someone. They don't want to wait 30 minutes.
One is they're engaged at that moment, right? It's still on their mind. You know what I mean?
It's a psychological thing. It's still on their mind. They're in that quote unquote buyer's mindset where they're ready to talk to someone. You better damn well make sure you have a system that notifies you immediately when that lead comes in, so you can take advantage of this
It,
data.
it's also impressive. Like, wow.
Yeah.
You know,
It says a lot.
These guys are serious. These guys are serious. They're not messing around. They're professionals. You know?
Absolutely. And if you don't get a hold of them, then the second commandment is always follow up with them at least 7 times. Don't just give up after the second or third call, because your lead manager or yourself or your reps will have a 95% chance of making contact within the 7 touch points. So don't give up after the second or third. And that's one of those things that, like, if you don't have a system tracking all this, you're never going to do it. This is this consistency component. 95% chance of making contact just by following up at least 7 times. That's all it takes to get and if you do that at scale, think about how many more deals you're going to get from that.
Absolutely. I'm writing this stuff down. So if you see me looking down, you see the top of my, I used to have a 4 head, Dan, but now I have like a 7 head. So getting to look at, okay?
Yeah. And you got to make sure you have tools that you trust that can help you do all this stuff.
That number 3, tools?
That isn't number 3. That's just I'm riffing here.
Okay.
But it's true. But the third commandment is actually just pretty in line with what we're talking right now. It's have amazing rapport builders answering your phone. It's having an actual human connecting with these sellers and being empathetic about their situation, qualifying the lead, making sure that the options that they have are totally clear, making sure that they know that we're here to serve them, we're not trying to take advantage of them. And just having that first touch is so important, because if you have someone from the Philippines that just talked, or if you're using some sort of phone system like Pat Live that answers insurance calls and medical calls, and then the next call happens to be one of your leads, you're not going to get the same.
We all know, don't we, Dan? We all know when we're talking to someone who doesn't know what they're talking about. They're paid, they're reading a script, or they're trying to fake their way through. This isn't really what they do, but they're trying. We all know when we got that person on the phone.
Yeah. First impressions matter. Huge. And if you get it right on that first contact, then it strengthens the whole rest of your funnel. So I keep talking about this whole concept of a funnel. There's breaking points at every stage of this funnel. And
so let's talk about that for a second. You got to have somebody, but that guy can be rather expensive. And for a new person, that's hard. You can go to the Philippines and you can get a person for $3 an hour to at least sift through and find someone who's lukewarm that wants to talk, and then turn them over immediately. You're going to lose some people, though, right? You're going to have to sort through more people. But if that's, and this is my humble opinion, if that's all you can afford when you're starting out, then that's what you do. You do something. You don't do nothing. It'd be much better if you could hire a pro. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be completely transparent and tell you, I've been using those VAs, and it's working. Mm-hmm. But I've actually sat down with my outbound calling management guy, and we have someone in that lane. Now we have different lanes, all these different lanes. One guy has an outbound calling room. That's what he wanted to do. He was in credit card debt sales for 10 years. He knows how to keep a person on the phone and how to quell their anger. And so he said he wanted to open up a phone room. We said, okay. So I called him the other day and said, I would love to try a 10 or a 12 or a $15 an hour guy against the $3 an hour guys and just see what happens. You know what I mean? Will the closing ratio be better? Will the spreads be bigger? Will the $15 look like $15 an hour look like chump change at the end of this experiment? Or will you want to go back to the $3 an hour guys and save the money? I got a hunch that the higher paid, skilled American salesman that knows real estate is going to win.
Yeah.
I got a hunch.
It's totally true. And you're right. If you can't afford that, then just focus on closing some deals and scaling yourself out of that. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of hustle. I tell people this all the time. They think that they need to have all the systems set up. They need to have their team in place. They need to make all this investment up front before they've even closed the deal. If you've done all that and you haven't closed the deal, you're not on the right track.
Yeah.
You do need to understand the process.
I'm trying to bring it to another
doing a deal, the process of putting notes together.
So I'm trying to bring it also, you said it's all right to have a little hustle. It's all right to not be able to afford the top-notch first-class thing right off the bat either. If all you can afford is the $3 VA to make 250 phone calls a day while you're out doing something else, I mean, that's better than doing nothing.
Yeah.
Because they are going to produce, and I can swear to you that they produce, because I can tell you that I have deals that are coming from that phone room from Filipino VAs making calls. But we got 3 of them at $3 an hour, $3 an hour, and they're making almost 800 calls a day between the 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
You don't reach out 800 times, even if you're wearing raggedy clothes and not, have something good happen to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You reach out 800 times a day, something's going to happen.
You're definitely going to kick up some dirt at that volume.
Yeah.
But imagine having that volume with higher quality. It's just your conversion rates are going to go up,
All right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to report back to you but I'm pretty much sure I know that.
Yeah. So I have a shout out resource that I can provide. So there's a new company that provides US based call answering and outbound calling services. A friend of mine, Ryan Dossie, started a answering service called callporter.com. And they were actually at the event that you came and spoke at in Austin.
Cool.
Porter.
Callporter.com. Ryan, what's his last name?
Dossey, Dossey. And they hire all US based, trained, very friendly, empathetic and call answerers that, their job is to qualify and even set the appointment for you. You can have them set the appointment and just take that completely off of your plate. If it's a hot lead, you give them the access to your calendar, they'll set the appointment, and bam, it just shows up on your calendar and you go close the deal.
All right. So this is really good stuff. And this really works well. And if you're a full-time employee of someone else and you have a JOB and it's not the time to leave that JOB yet, this is real important. You're going to have to take some of that money you're making from that JOB or your savings and get something going in that 8 hours that you're spending working for someone else until you can make enough to walk away, which is, and I about 50% of my people have a full-time job and they're trying to work their way out of that job. And this is how you do it. So you have to set up some kind of system and start getting leads so that when you get off at 5 o'clock, you're doing the only thing that matters, which is driving over to a warm leads house and trying to get a contract signed.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
Yeah,
so, man, you're just full of great information today, Dan. Let's keep with this 10 commandments. We got a little off here. So the 10 commandments, we had number 1, respond within 5 minutes. Number 2, follow up at least 7 times. And number 3, have an amazing rapport builder to make the first impression for your clients.
Correct.
All right. What's number 4?
Well, I'll give you one more and then we'll rabbit hole from this.
Okay.
It's have an amazing CRM.
All right.
And this is the tool that glues your entire operation together. It captures all your leads, all your prospects. It houses all your team members. It allows you to communicate back and forth with your opportunities and with your team. And it allows you to automatically follow up. So it'll allow you to schedule those 7 call attempts. It'll notify you within 5 minutes so you can call the lead back within 5 minutes. It will give your rapport builders a clear step-by-step process to handle a lead and process the lead and assign the next action. So actually the 7th commandment is always have a next action in place inside of your CRM. You don't want to rely on memory, especially if you have a JOB and you have all these other calls coming in. Why would you want to rely on memory to call that person back later when you can use technology to do that for you?
So number 4 was have an amazing CRM, customer relations management system. Did you just name number 5?
Yeah, more or less. I always have a next action.
All right. So are we going to go through the 10? Or are we going to make them go get the report?
No. I'm not. I can't give all 10 out.
Okay. So one of them is not number 5, but one of them is always have a next action. Your CRM should always have a next action. So I guess until the deal's just dead, like the last action might be bury this file. It's over.
Yeah. Well, the last action. If the seller calls you and gives you a death threat, then you just mark the lead as dead. No pun
Or,
intended.
he could have sold it to, you didn't win that one. Someone else bought it.
Someone else bought it. That's
over.
fine. You mark it as dead. You don't delete it from your file. You simply just mark it as dead, so you can still use that in your metrics. So you can see, how many total leads came in, how many total leads became dead, all that. You want to track all this stuff.
Does your CRM, does InvestorFuse do some metrics like that?
Absolutely.
Oh, cool.
Our new system, InvestorFuse 2.0, actually, we're releasing the KPI dashboard, key performance indicators, in the next couple of weeks. So you're going to be able to log in and you're going to see how many leads came in from what campaign, how many appointments were booked from that campaign, how many offers were sent from that, all the various operational stats.
You have like analytics.
Analytics for how you're performing. And you'll be able to actually determine what part of my business here isn't working so well. How come my appointment to close ratio hasn't gone up in the last 2 months? Well, you might not be good on the appointments. Maybe you need to hire a closer to actually go in and handle those appointments, so you can actually isolate what element of your funnel is breaking and how to improve that over time. And you really can't do that unless you have data to prove these results. And that's another major function for a CRM or a lead management system like InvestorFuse.
Well, in InvestorFuse, hats off to you guys. You keep improving all the time. I mean, you guys just don't give up. You guys don't stop. And I kind of know your pain because I have like livecom.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been going back, and then the customers give me suggestions, and then we try to implement them. It's never fast and it's never easy, even though the program, that's easy. 6 months later, they still haven't got it plugged in. You know what I mean? It's like, if it's easy, why is this taking so long? But you keep fighting, you keep making your program better, if not inch by inch, but how long have you been doing this these days?
So it started out on Podio. The initial version of InvestorFuse was just licensing Podio out to people and giving them a fully automated, customated workspace. And then the biggest complaint with Podio, some of your listeners might be aware of this, that's the tool that you can go in and you can like build it yourself. Mm-hmm. And it kind of forces people to become computer engineers, and learning about how to build automation. And some of my clients used to just learn code so they can code their own automations in. And I realized that we were perpetuating a problem and removing people's focus away from the actual skills that you need to do deals. And Podio was kind of a big part of that problem. Now, I don't want to hate too much on Podio. It's a great platform. And
it's not about that. It's not about that.
It got us to where we are, and it allowed us to hone in on the exact process that investors need to handle leads in a predictable fashion at scale. So we created our own software, InvestorFuse 2.0, and launched the beta version of that last year in 2018, back in May. And like you said, we've just been rapidly improving ever since then. Because trust me, when you have a couple hundred alpha entrepreneurs poking at your software, you fix it really quickly.
Right.
We learned a lot of lessons along the way, and we felt a lot of pain just in having to rapidly take this feedback and implement it immediately. And it's been tweaked and tested and poked and improved every week for the last 6 months, and we're actually getting ready to do the full public rollout of the software now. Once the KPIs
the newest version is not even rolled out yet, right? So when will it be rolled out by?
The newest version will be rolled out. This is the first time I'm saying this publicly. In February of 2019.
Okay. So, and listeners out there, when you're dealing with software and rollouts, sometimes February turns into March. So just don't
appreciate you for saying that.
Don't get upset with anybody if it doesn't show up when it's supposed to, because until you've tried it yourself, you don't know how hard it is to hit a deadline in this stuff. Okay.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right. So tell us about. Do you want to talk about costs, or have you got there yet?
Yeah. So it's going to be a monthly rate or an annual rate. So at launch, it's going to be discounted. You sign up on the wait list, you'll get access to the offer that we present during the main launch. But then it's going to be $250 a month
Mhm.
or $2,500 a year, and then there'll be a setup fee, which we haven't determined yet. But there will be a setup fee because it does require us to route your leads in,
Yeah, yeah.
to migrate your old leads into the system, and then to train you just to make sure that you're going to get the most out of the system. Because again, there's a lot that goes into this. Everything that we've been talking about kind of all feeds into a tool like this.
So can we do it? Can we do a webinar on InvestorFuse and everything that it's going to do, like in the near future, like before your launch? Can I help you launch it?
Yeah,
I'd love to do a webinar where you explain whatever it is. You know, when you're pitching InvestorFuse, what do you say to people? What do you show them? I'd like to do that for you
100%.
because you know everybody needs a CRM. Hardly anybody's, well, nobody should be programming their own CRM because then
No.
you're not in the house business, you're in the programming business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think a made for you CRM at $250 or $350 even, it doesn't matter. Because if it produces one house a month, $250 is dog doo-doo. You know what I mean? It's nothing.
Yeah.
You know, quit wasting your time on that and get to it. It doesn't, you know, $550, it doesn't matter. You know?
Having these types of systems in place, it's like marketing insurance. You're spending thousands of dollars to acquire marketing data and sending out direct mail or cold calling. You need to make sure that you're going to close them, that you're going to convert those into actual money in your bank account.
Well, people need to understand the first quarter with your CRM should be your worst quarter because you should be figuring out how to ratchet up all the time, right? So the first quarter is going to be the most discouraging quarter, you know, always. And people get into these things and they quit too early. So don't quit. Figure out how to fix it for you. You know what I mean? How do you, if that ad's not working, if this drip campaign's not producing, change the campaign. Find something that is. So
consistency.
Yeah, yes. Well, the consistency is the CRM itself.
Right.
You just got to keep tweaking it so that it consistently does a better job than it did yesterday because you keep noticing things that aren't converting. Well, if no one's replying to touch number 4, not one person out of 500 people has replied when I sent out take touch number 4 out and put something else in.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep, exactly.
And what's cool about what I'm hearing from you is if you're going to have analytics that tells us that kind of thing, because before in our CRMs, we never knew if touch 4 wasn't working. You know what I mean? So
yeah, we're going all in on follow-up with this system because that's the one thing, it's the least sexy part of this business that actually makes you the most money.
So do you have you've got it, I'm sure you do. You got some kind of text touch?
Yep, absolutely. So you fire off sequences of emails, text messages, and right now custom tasks. Eventually it'll be stuff like ringless voicemails and postcards that all get fired off sequentially once you click on follow-up. And you can create different messages and different templates for different scenarios. You know, if you're a rehabber, then your sequence is going to be different than if you're doing creative financing like you. So you can create these different sequences that feel like it's actually coming from you. So you've actually replicated yourself using technology at scale, and you're getting people to reply to you automatically over time because it's important to, with follow-up, majority of your deals aren't going to be from that first phone call. It's going to take a couple months for them to decide what they want to do. It's a finesse and for the situation to play itself out. If you don't have any sort of follow-up in place, then your competitor is going to beat you, and you're frankly going to be out of business because this all ties back into that, what I said in the beginning of the webinar, he who has the best systems and the best follow-up systems will win in this market, a market that information on how to do deals is commoditized. So doing the unsexy hard stuff like follow-up is truly how you compete. And that is really just what we go all in on because we find that most other software companies kind of fall short.
To have I was going to say a perfect CRM, but I don't think CRMs will ever be perfect. I think there'll always be changes but to have an accurate, consistent CRM that has automation in the background that starts the drip campaigns, I mean, that could be like the most valuable thing that you ever did in your whole career was get that done because The biggest mistake I see people make is they appoint themselves or somebody to do these tasks, and then Christmas rolls around and it doesn't get done for 2 weeks. And then someone gets pregnant or someone has a funeral and then it doesn't get done. And then they have to come back and get back on track and, gear back up again. And it doesn't work like that. The house buying business doesn't work like that. It has to be like every single day, every single time, no missed opportunity to send out the touch. And if that's automated, I don't see how you really don't buy houses. I mean, you're not buying houses after that. You have to look at who's negotiating with that seller. Who's negotiating, because there must be a problem there.
It always comes back to that interpersonal skills. Like if you don't have interpersonal skills, you can have the best automation in the world and still not close deals. So by freeing up all this time using automation, you can actually get good at the skills that, like the human element of this business, which in the future, that is, even right now, that is how you compete in this business. Like it's
so
systems
make no mistake,
and skills.
What you just said was the CRMs just to get the lead where you want them, warmed up and ready to talk to. Someone has to go close them. Someone has to close them. You don't typically close absentee. You got to be eyeball to eyeball generally.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, we could talk all day long. But I don't.
Yeah.
I have no time limit on this interview with you today. Is there anything else we need to touch on, or anything you want to bring to the forefront exactly, or have we done it? We've done a good job already of talking about this issue, about how to start out 2019 and kick her in the butt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I would just like to end with one notion that there's a lot of distraction out there right now, and there's the tendency for people to stay busy without actually getting anything done. And I believe that another key skill for 2019 is the ability to focus on deep strategic work, team building, basically getting really good at building your engine instead of being the guy that's inside of the engine doing all the activities. And if you're truly serious about this business and you want to scale as an entrepreneur, you should use this year to get really good at focusing on that high leverage type of stuff like we've been talking about. Team building, interpersonal skills, setting up systems, hiring amazing team members that you can trust to handle your leads on the front end all the way through to closing, acquisitions managers. You need to be confident in your team and your systems. And if you can do that, you can create a lot of time freedom for yourself to work on the stuff that actually matters. And I think it's an important message now with all the social media distraction that people have, just to get really good at that and to take it seriously, because the more time you spend doing this deep work, the more money you're going to make and the more time you're going to be able to spend doing the stuff you want with the people you love.
Let me address that. That's the super point. So right now, and this is not a measure your success contest or anything. I'm just saying this is where I'm at. And so I'm buying about 100 houses a year, give or take. And this has been the most competitive market I've ever seen. There's a guru on every corner. There's a show about flipping houses on every channel. There's times are good, money's flowing. Everybody's a house flipper these days. But I've been doing it 22 years. And about 7 years ago, I had tried many, many times and failed how to automate. Then I finally decided I was going to get around some people that were professionals and had already automated. And I paid $30,000 to go to that mastermind and hang around about 40 people that could do anything in the world they wanted to, anytime they wanted to. And they were managing their business from their phone or from their computer in a couple of hours a day, maybe, if even that. And they were making big, big dollars. I learned how to do that. I can proudly say, as of the beginning of 2017, I started to roll into this mode where I haven't seen the last 300 houses I bought. I haven't seen the last 300 people who bought my houses. And to tell you the truth, right this minute, I couldn't tell you if I have one house for sale or 10. I can't tell you. I don't need to be able to tell you. I just know the closings that are happening every month and I got people that are handling it. So one thing I wanted to point out was in that process, it was very painful because I had to spend money. I went to a mastermind that literally cost $20,000 for my chair, and then by the time you went 4 times that year, once a quarter, and by the time you paid your hotels and the airfares and all whatever you did there, it was 30 grand if it was a penny. Okay. Mm-hmm. Then the hardest part, and this is the part I want people to catch on to, if you're a guy out there slaying it and making great money, but you're starting to feel yourself wear out, which is where I was, then listen to what I'm about to tell you. The next painful part was not the $30,000 to go get around and learn what you're supposed to do. Then after you figure out what you're supposed to do, I had to go home and had to start implementing it. And while I was implementing that, I wasn't doing all those other things I was doing. So that year that I implemented and got my systems where they could be almost recognizable as a company, and they weren't even really all together by the end of a year, I didn't do 100 houses. I only did 30 houses that year because I was busy working on my business instead of in my business. And this is a major sticking point for a lot of people who want to move to the next level. You don't understand. You got to ass up the money and you got to sacrifice the deals to back up and take yourself out of your business and work in your business. So it's 30,000 going out and then 70 deals that I didn't close. I don't even want to calculate how much money that was. But if you want to know what it takes to move your business forward, start wrapping your mind around that kind of mentality that you're really going to have to give up some stuff to get up there. And let me tell you why it was easy for me. I had been running so hard for 15 years, burning the candle at both ends. I was the closer. I was the seller. I was the buyer. I was the money raiser. I was the advertising guy. I was half the time I was the bookkeeper and the accountant. Which was horrible, that I was going to quit. I was going to walk away from $1 million a year. I was going to quit. And I said to myself, if I quit, that means that million goes to zero. I thought to myself, why don't I take 400,000 of that million and just pay key people, and I'll only make, just say by the time the expenses and unknowns, I only make 500,000 or I only make 400,000. That's better than going to zero. So I need to give up some of that million. Well, then I made up my mind I was going to make one more run at it, but this time I wasn't going to try to do it myself. I was going to go get with some people that had already done it. I was going to pay to be there, and I was going to be able to get inside their personal minds and their personal business data and their personal financials because I paid, and I'd get to see what they did. Because one thing I knew for sure is I didn't think that one thing I knew for sure was if they could do it, I could do it. I just didn't know how to do it. And I needed someone to hold my hand and help me when I got stuck, or help me overcome myself when I got fear or got afraid or whatever. So that's what I did. And the amazing lesson is here, and I know I'm kind of going on my own little seminar here, but
powerful.
But I went and I did that, but I didn't end up making $1 million and paying out 400,000 or 500,000 and just keeping half. That's not what happened. They ended up making 1.5 million and 1.6 million, and I didn't have to pay out anything. And by the time I did pay them out, I didn't make $1 million. I made 1.2, and I'm trying to figure out how the hell did that happen. And then it became very apparent why it happened. When I hired that sales guy, he had one thing to do in his life, and that was be a salesman. And even though I was a better salesman than him, I was spread so thin, I was not as good a salesman as him. Because he was focused on one thing. He had one thing to do every day. And so he was better. My acquisition guy, he had one way that he was going to find houses, and this was his lane, or maybe in his lane there was 2 or 3 ways, and he was going to do that. And that's all he had to do that morning. And even though I'm a better house buyer than him one-on-one, as a spread too thin, scatterbrained entrepreneur, I was not a better house buyer than him. And so what happened was those individual departments outperformed Mitch, who was divided. They outperformed me so bad in every department that we made more, and I made more. I thought I was going to take a cut and pay to have these people. I didn't take a cut and pay. I made more money when what is it Ron LeGrand says? Do less and make more. I did less and made more. Now, that first year was a bitch. not having to turn down leads on deals because I got 3 interviews for people today for my acquisition managers, or I got 5 interviews today. That was not fun. And also, it wasn't something I was used to doing.
Right.
I didn't even know if I'd be any good at it. And quite frankly, I wasn't any good at it. I hired people I liked. I started testing people and hiring people. I gave the criteria that I wanted from these people, 2 of which are they can't be entrepreneurs and they can't be good money managers, personal money managers of their own personal funds. Everything else they had to be honest, integral, self-motivated, money-motivated, all that other stuff. I just didn't want them to be entrepreneurs. I didn't want them to have an entrepreneurial bone in their body, and I didn't want them to be terrific managers of their own money. So I started testing for that, and the people that test told me to hire, I thought, this will never work in a million years. And I am so wrong. They're still there. They're outperforming even what I thought I wanted them to do. And they were engineers and people that didn't really have the biggest, boldest personalities. They don't want to be in real estate. They want a good job. They don't really care real estate. They were good salespeople for Hoover or for the cars business or whatever. But they didn't want to be me. That was the main thing, because I didn't need people that wanted to be me. I needed people that wanted to work for me. And that's when things changed. So you were saying you have to take the time and set up the systems, and I just wanted to go into my own personal story and say that's very painful, and you have to be ready to sacrifice if you want to go to that level. I just happened to get my back against the wall. I was going to quit. I said, I'm going to make one more run at it or I'm done, because I'm fried. I can't do it anymore. I don't like it anymore. I'm starting to hate it. It's starting to aggravate. Hey, someone calls me up and says, hey, I want to sell you my house. I'd like, who gives a shit? And I'd hang up the phone. That's how bad it was getting. I was seriously burned out. So,
I mean, that's powerful. And for people listening to this that haven't gone down that journey yet and heard that story and might feel a little bit of tension or fear around that, just know that if you're committed to personal growth, there's no better forcing function to grow as a man or woman than building a team and setting up systems for them to work in that environment.
Hey, there's nothing that says you can't hire a person to help you hire people. If that's not your forte or you don't know what to do,
100%.
Figure out what you suck at and get someone else to help you with it. You know what I mean?
100%.
It's been really good talking to you.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I love the fact that you're going to be right down the street in Austin.
Yeah. I don't know if I should be scared or excited.
No, you should be excited. It's a crazy place up there,
Yeah, I'm excited.
Where are you from originally? I mean, where have you lived recently?
Baltimore is where I cut my teeth in real estate, and I lived in San Diego for a a bit, and now I'm going to Austin.
Completely 2 different things. You just from Baltimore to San Diego, that's 2 different completely things. From either one of those places to Austin, Texas. Now I got to tell you, don't judge all of Texas by Austin. Austin is the little California right in the middle of Texas. We don't know how it got there. We do not know how it got there, but it's okay. So if you walk right outside of Austin, it's going to be different again. Any place Texas will be different, but Austin's an exciting place, techno place, a cutting edge place. It's neat. But you can get out in the country and get some down home pretty quick, just like 25 miles in any direction. All right, my friend. Thanks. And will we meet up and do a little webinar on InvestorFuse?
Absolutely. I'll have someone reach out about that.
To my people.
Absolutely. I was going to say that.
All right, man. This is Mitch Stephen with the Real Estate Investor Summit podcast. I want to thank all of y'all for stopping by to get you some Daniel Schwartz and learn a little bit about how he suggests we kick 2019 in the butt. Also, learn about InvestorFuse. Go to InvestorFuse.com. They're going to have a rollout here probably February, March of 2019. A whole new and improved. This guy's a scrapper, man, and this company's a scrapper, and they just keep getting better all the time. You need a CRM. Please, you owe it to yourself to check out InvestorFuse, because they sat down and spent a lot of time and a lot of effort and gotten a lot of feedback about which direction that software needs to go. And I think when someone spends that much time and has that much dedication, you can't help but hone in on being a great product. And I think you've already been a really good product, but I think it's going to be great now, especially with the analytics. I want you guys to check out taxfreefuture.com. If you guys don't have 401 solo 401ks, IRAs, health savings accounts, or educational savings accounts, which are tax deferred or even tax free in some cases, then you have no idea what you're missing out on. The ability to grow your wealth tax free or tax deferred has been quoted by Warren Buffett as one of the 8 wonders of the world. And when you see how money grows when it's not taxed, you'll come to believe why he made that statement. If you don't have a tax-free or tax-deferred savings plan, you're missing the boat. And you will not believe what your financial advisors are not telling you. And the only reason they don't tell you about it is because you would be making all the money and they wouldn't get a commission. And so we'll clue you into all that. We've spent a lot of time talking with these guys at taxfreefuture.com. And one of the big things is be careful. When people let you in free, there's usually a big back end. This is not free to get into up front, but it's relatively tiny. And all things considered, it's chump change. And the back end is minuscule. And the back end is what goes on forever. The getting in is the one-time upfront fee. No big deal. But the back end is tiny forever, and it stays tiny. So check it out, taxfreefuture.com. This is Mitch Stephen with the Real Estate Investor Summit Podcast. See you later, Dan.
See you, Mitch. Thank you.
Bye now.